A lot of great feedback from our first part of this interview here on Weiss Thoughts. We're going to continue now with part 2 of our interview with Dave Cody, kind of a renaissance man in the audio industry, as it were. And I think you're going to find it very interesting as we touch on topics such as AI's influence in the music industry, not only from an artist standpoint, but from the standpoint of those working behind the scenes, producers, music suppliers, etc. I think you're really going to enjoy this. So let's get ready to dive in to part 2 of our interview here on Weiss Thoughts with Dave Cody. It's time for a virtual campfire sit-down with Terry Weiss. Welcome to Weiss Thoughts. I agree with you. There is some fidelity loss. I think there is some loss of what the artists were trying to convey. Like you said, I remember you started talking about speakers. I had a pair of Bose 901s. Remember those bad boys?
Oh, yeah.
And then I had Bose 601s. I had and I had the big, Kenwood, and then I stepped up into better home receivers and separate components. And I remember a guy who used to work with in the early 90s invited me and a couple of guys from work over to his house, him and his girlfriend. And he had a Macintosh stereo system, which this is like back in the day, high end. You're talking,
it's still
thousands.
high end.
Right. And he said, he says he had these speakers that were probably about 3 foot high. And they were separated, right, and spaced right up on little risers or floor pads. And he says, I want you to listen to this. And he put in a CD. And this is back when CD players were still a few $100, $400 or $500 or so. And he put in a CD, I believe, I'm trying to remember who it was. I'm not sure. I think it might have been Led Zeppelin or a Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. It was something where it wasn't heavy, hard hitting. And he put this on and he played this. And he says, I'm just going to put the volume on 2. And I'm trying to remember, but the song came on. The first thing that struck me is, no, oh my God, this isn't loud or hurting my ears. This is like, holy shit, I'm sitting right next to the band in the studio. I feel like I'm right there. I'm the virtual Yoko Ono watching everyone record. I'm here hearing it. And he said, he says, that's my 15 watt my 15 watt amplifier. I'm like, that's 15 watts. He goes, yeah. He says, I can't put it above 4. It'll blow the windows out of here, but it was expensive as hell, but it was crystal clear. Like you were witnessing a live performance by those guys setting up, like if you're playing with your band and you guys are going to make the music. It blew me away.
And that's one of the things that's encouraging is, I'm at 53 years old. I'm practically a senior citizen at Sweetwater.
Making me feel bad because I'm older than you.
Most of my coworkers are my kids' age. They're under 30, and a lot of them closer to 25. Okay, and it's fun because they're home studios. They have some phenomenal monitor speakers. They're buying turntables and they're buying old vinyl, and they're listening
rediscovering
to vinyl.
Yeah.
My
daughter is too. Just to jump in real quick, she wanted records last Christmas and some stuff, some 80s stuff, Madonna and Hall & Oates, some stuff from that you can track. The vinyl is making a comeback, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not. Not everything is bits and bytes.
It's outselling CDs.
Yeah.
It outsold CDs.
I believe it.
Quite a bit. And now, of course, nobody's buying CDs.
Yeah.
And it's vinyl and streaming services.
Yeah.
But like you said, even on the streaming services, you look at Tidal, you look at Apple Music, they're growing, and the services where the quality is lower are shrinking.
Right.
And so there's a reason to be encouraged, and like you said, the gentleman the north of Richmond.
Oliver Anthony, yes.
Oliver Anthony, yeah. You look and you go, it doesn't have to be high fidelity. It
Right.
doesn't have to be, you know, uh,
In a
but
$2 million studio, or Sun Studios,
right.
or, absolutely. And, speaking of studios, if the Beatles had what most of us have in our spare room in our house, most home
Right.
studio, and I'm not talking high-end home studios like you might sell to some of your clients, where they go for, the Universal Audio Apollo 24 with the, and the everything like that. I'm talking about the basic bare bones where they have a decent DAW, whether, it
Yeah.
be Logic Pro, or, what have you, or even some of the other ones out there. Just having that and a basic interface, like a Scarlett 2i2 or something. If the Beatles had that, they would be blown away by the music because what we can make in our bedrooms and in our, air quotes here, I'm saying, home
Yep.
studios blows away what they had at Abbey Road Studios back in the day.
Oh, and that's another interesting tie-in to AI. And here's the tie-in. When you talk these Neve consoles, or you talk, SSL consoles, or these certain things that, and we love the sound of it. We're used to it. It's funny because the engineers, at the time, Rupert Neve and these wonderful engineers that put these things together, hated them.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be transparent. They wanted it to not affect what was being recorded. Record to tape, you get a little bit of compression.
Right.
We like the compression. We like the way that sounds. It tightens everything up and makes everything clearer. And you get that in recording with tape. And so, in your DAW, or, there's a whole bunch of different tape emulations to simulate what recording on tape sounds like.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's where I think another future of AI is going to be really interesting is, in the not too distant future, we'll be able to take existing media, and we'll be able to take, media that's being produced at the time, and sit there and go, what would, we already have the ability to say, what would this sound like if it was recorded in Abbey Road?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of that out there. Absolutely.
Right. But what if we take the recording?
Oh, we lost you there, Dave.
We take Abbey Road out of the equation, and now you're just sitting in a room listening to John Paul and Ringo play.
Right. Yeah. That virtual experience.
Right. Where you can sit there and go, okay, it doesn't sound like the console at Abbey Road. It doesn't sound like the room at Abbey Road. What would it sound like if they played in my backyard?
Or in my living room, or what family
right.
room or something. Yeah, they were just sitting around shooting the breeze. Absolutely.
Right.
And, yeah.
And, yeah, that's coming.
I can imagine. Yeah. And things like, we touched about like Oliver Anthony, and there's been a few other people that have gone viral with just minimal, making something short and simplistic, and it's all about, touching that human emotion, connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, we've talked about it. I do voiceover work a lot too. And one of the big concerns too with AI is the voiceover industry, audiobooks, commercials,
Sure.
e-learning, things that our industry does. And the problem is, like with anything, with any tool, whether it's the internet or off the internet, you have some folks, some organizations that are not, shall I say, they don't have a high degree of integrity. And there's been instances already where voice actors and voice artists' voices have been cloned and stolen. And, I'm in a few forums where they've come across, hey, I don't recall voicing that video or doing that commercial. I didn't have a contract. I wasn't paid for that. And that's where I think that's where, and I'm not, and as well as I do, I'm not a big government guy. I'm a child of the 60s and 70s like you, man. Government, leave me alone. I'm liberal in that end. Leave me alone. Let me live my life. I'll obey the law, but just, keep off my back and let me be me. But in
Right.
this instance, I think there has to be harsh consequences for intellectual property theft when it comes to AI, because it's so
Oh,
easy to do.
it's and you're the issue. Whether we're talking Oliver Anthony and recording, and or whether we're talking somebody putting together a rap hip hop album, in their bedroom using Fruity Loops. That's awesome. That's we all agree that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes about intent. When the intent is, hey, I can knock this thing out fast, cheap, and make more money. That's a problem. Whether it being having somebody,
Sure.
using a AI voice simulator to sound like Morgan Freeman is or whether it's somebody putting together a low rent hip hop viral video, or whether it's and this is the other one that we're starting to see, and it's going to get really, really, really bad, is your professional musician, and I'm not talking, touring musician. I'm not talking, well-known celebrity. I'm talking, my buddy who did the music for Duck Dynasty, Tony Pasco.
Mm-hmm.
When you can sit there and have AI play, the background music for your show, one argument becomes, well, hey, it's going to become a lot easier to produce shows, and people that otherwise wouldn't be able to are going to be able to put out content, and it'll be entertaining and good content.
Right.
And that's a solid argument. But the reality is, a guy who's an industry professional, has been over 30 years, if we're not careful, he's going to be, put out of business.
A job. Yeah. Musicians.
He'll be put out of a job.
Yeah.
Right. And, this is not a guy that is filling arenas, but the background music for television,
right,
for network television, has been what keeps the lights on, what keeps him buying gear, what keeps me employed.
Right. Well, even people who score movies too, okay? Like people like John Williams and all these other composers that, now you can take your movie and just go to the computer and say, I want you to make emotional background music to go with my drama that is set in the 1950s about a small child. But you just give ChatGPT a few prompts, and it'll score the whole damn film for you. And now you've just probably put 200 to 400 people out of work.
Yeah. And the John Williams of the world will be fine because he's John Williams.
He's banked money. But I'm saying, what about that up and coming composer?
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Is twofold. One, you've denied, the Dave Codys, the Tony Pascos, the Terry Winklers, that are musicians that are doing, music for commercials, that are doing music for, intro and outro of your local news,
right?
That are doing, that kind of music. Now all of a sudden they can't do that. You're
shifting the industry. You're shifting the industry and forcing now, again to put and again it's not like we're down on AI. It has a lot. I mean, in the medical field, it helps it analyze disease and treat disease and offer alternatives or better diagnostics than ever before. And in the medical industry, hell yeah. Definitely that's something that we want, because where you'd have to take, you go in for tests and say, I my foot's aching, and the doctor, I don't know what this is. I'm going to have to, reach out and consult with 7 other doctors. You could plug that right into a computer, along with your lab results and, a little bit of your medical history, and then, hey, it's, a new form of athlete's foot or whatever. And then, okay, boom. Now you just saved maybe weeks or months of labor-intensive stuff for those medical professionals where they can now concentrate on people that really need their urgent services, okay, and you're not backlogging that whole industry,
Right.
and you're making it better for the patient. So stuff like that, absolutely. Like I said, it's definitely a double-edged sword with AI, and the industry is going to transition. Many industries already are transitioning, and
your local musician that makes the ad for, Bob's, car barn no longer can make, is no longer making money doing music for Bob's car barn. So therefore, come July 4th, when you have your 4th of July celebration and fireworks, and every community has their community days, and they have the tent out, and they have, local artists and then some art, some major label artists that, as their highlights. One, you've denied that local musician the chance to, he's not going to be playing your 4th of July fest. He can't anymore. He's got to get a different job because he's no longer doing Bob's car barn. And he doesn't have the chance to grow into the musician who is your headliner later that night because you've denied him the opportunity. There is no,
right.
John Williams is fine, but the next John Williams,
it's the middle of the road
the
folks and the people that are still honing their craft and learning from different experiences, and and having those other creative outlets. Because there's been musicians that started writing commercials and jingles that went on to, cut an album, and that throughout time.
Elvis Costello.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just going to say, and again, absolutely, the synthesizer, all these things with computers, and I understand, and I agree with you. People they're always going to say with any new technology and anything, oh no, it's at the end of everything. I'm not here, and I don't think you're here to say that AI is the end. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. We're all going to die next week because it's going to, release an airborne virus. I hope not. But we have to adapt.
Maybe, maybe we're hoping.
Right. But the thing is that the thing that scares me most about AI and with it is that it's a tool that throughout history, a lot of tools that the human race has developed, sometimes we don't know how to control ourselves, and we go over the top, over the edge, overzealous and all in without, again, like I alluded to earlier, kind of trying to let's take a pause. Let's take a nice deep breath and let's say, okay, here's the good things. Here's some of the bad things. Here's what can happen. And let's proceed down this road with a little bit of caution in mind and a little bit, while being open-minded, and that's the thing, and everybody's, do this. I mean, I was doing some AI searches. I mean, you can get it to make videos for you now for YouTube. You can get it to make the biggest thing on YouTube now is faceless channels with AI. You basically go type in some chat GPT parameters. You can have it create topics and create, and you can create a faceless channel. You can use another tool to go in to create the video for it. You put them together, put a little music bed underneath it, put it up there. You can put up 300 videos in 15 minutes. And if you're lucky enough to catch on with your niche and go viral, you can make a shit ton of money. I mean, there's ain't no other way to say it. There's channels on there that, some of their videos are getting, 800,000, 1 million views, and it's like 10-second things, little proverbs or little sayings or self-help or little goof, a cat dancing backwards or something. And it's just like, it's never been easier, I guess,
Well, but it comes down to the same thing, right? What's the goal?
Right.
Here, I can do this quick and grab a lot of cash. I can,
Right.
And it's
and can you really call yourself an artist though? That's the thing that, there's the fine line, because I am more of the old school, like you've got to put in your sweat equity. You've got to earn there was a great movie. I don't know if you remember back in, I believe it was in the early 90s with Ralph Macchio called Crossroads. Remember with Steve Vai?
Steve Vai.
And I remember, he was a Ralph Macchio. And folks, if you haven't seen Crossroads and you like music and you like just a kind of a little story around music, it's dated. Okay. We're in the 21st century. It is dated. And Ralph Macchio looks like he's about 7 years old in it, but
he still looks like he's 7. Though.
Well, 7 with a fat 7. Sorry, Ralph, a chubby 7. I'm sorry. Don't want to fat shame anybody here on the show, but it's a story about how he's a classically trained musician going to do, I don't know what was it, the music school was there in
Juilliard.
Juilliard. I want to say Juilliard. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure I was heading down the right path. So good, great minds think alike. And he wants to, but he loves the blues. And so he, hooks up with this guy, and I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but there's a thing in there with this blues man that he hooks up with during the movie. And the blues man, who's been around the block quite a few times, he's elderly, he's just kind of in his final few miles of life, tells this little young pup, listen, man, you've got to pay your dues. You can't just read this in a book or, sit down and watch a couple videos or listen to a couple of, cassettes or whatever and think, just because you know all the chords and everything, there's got to be feeling and soul in it. And I thought, wow, that's good writing, because that's true. That is true. You gotta have some skin in the game.
Overall, the future is scary. The future is scary, but it's bright.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about AI, especially in the entertainment industry, as far as even with music is concerned. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Especially, I think, with learning. I think AI could be a great virtual learning tool. People now are in this, again, and probably put guitar and, musical teachers on it, but they can do a virtual lesson, put on a headset, you know what I'm saying? And maybe do a virtual lesson with somebody in the privacy of their own home. Or maybe they can connect with a teacher virtually, and they both put on headsets and meet in a room and go,
It's one of these, to that extent, music education wise, we're in a golden age, because we're in a lot of misinformation.
Right.
But if you lived in, Milan, Tennessee, where my parents are from, there was Elliot's Music. And I'm sure somewhere there's a independent music teacher, but Elliot's hasn't offered lessons for decades, and you had a limited number of teachers you could go to, even if you could find a teacher. And I tell folks all the time ideally find that local teacher,
right?
But even that is not the end-all be-all. You find that local teacher, and now you can go online and you can sign up for online course study and YouTube videos and Zoom videos and Zoom lessons, and the idea is that you can go and capture not only your local guy who might be a very skilled musician, but depending on where you live at, there's probably very little chance that he's a world-class musician.
Or it might not be the genre that ignites your passion too. He might not be versed in that or skilled in that.
Right. Or you guys might not just gel.
Right. Yeah, we had that. I had that happen, and a few years back, me and one of the other gentlemen I play guitar with, we decided we wanted to take some lessons. And I've never been a big proponent. And again, like they say, your mileage may vary. Music lessons, I think traditional music lessons where you sit in a room and you pull out I don't even know if they're still around, the Mel Bay books, and say, okay, here's a bar, here's a staff, here's a rest, here's a quarter. Myself personally have never been able to learn. I can't read. I mean, I know what a note is and stuff, but if you ask me to read music, ain't going to happen, okay? Paul McCartney doesn't read music to this day, as far as he's admitted. He still says, and he's up now at 80-something years old, never reads music. He learns it. He hears it. He watches. Hey, show me that chord. How do you show me how that chord? He hears it in his head, and et cetera. And I'm not Sir Paul, I'm not comparing myself to you, but that's how I learn, visually, hands-on learning.
Right.
But we tried with a music teacher, and this guy actually went to Woodstock, not as a performer, but went there, old school music. But he wanted me and the other guy here to go through the book and we did it for about three or 4 weeks. And, God love him. He's a great guy, very affable and everything, very pleasant, jovial. But we told him, listen, and I'll just say his first name, Mark. I said, listen, Mark, nothing against you, nothing against your knowledge and your personality or anything. It's just that we're used to kind of just sitting there and going. He says, no, I get it. Some people come here and they take to this and they use it as a tool to augment what they already have in knowledge. And some people just come like you guys and say, all right, we'll kind of feel this out, see what it's about, and say, this isn't no soup. This isn't my flavor soup that I like. No hard feelings,
Right.
and we still kept in touch with him for a number of years till he moved away out of town here. And yeah, like you said, Dave, the internet. I have learned more bass songs by watching YouTube play along videos and slowing them down and looking and listening and focusing and just doing little chunks and then going back listening to the original recording and say, okay, are they being true to the original recording? And the most that I have learned is by jamming with other musicians, believe it or not.
Sure.
I have learned, and that's probably the best thing because right there, then is it more pressure? Well, it depends on the setting, I guess. If you're all sitting around the back porch having a couple adult beverages, then that ain't no big deal. But if you're at an open mic night or what have you, and you're jamming, or playing, then it's like, oops, if something happens, a guitar cable craps out on you or an amp starts crackling or I missed that chorus, that's just makes you better. Like a diamond isn't made by coddling it. It's made by pressure,
Sure. No, it's a interesting thing. Paul McCartney has synesthesia. It's not well known.
For those of you who doesn't know what that is, what is that?
Synesthesia, it takes on a couple different forms. But typically it's when somebody hears the tone of someone's voice or a note, or they associate it with a color. Several years ago, there was one of the crime dramas, and the person is going on a killing spree, and they have synesthesia, and as people talk,
got to be one of the NCISs or something.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah,
one of the 17.
If the letters were red, he had to kill them.
Right. It's a Monday, and I see blue. Yeah.
But I've had some clients that I work with here at Sweetwater that have synesthesia,
right.
And it's basically when there's a note or there's a timbre of someone's voice or anything that's melodic,
right?
It's associated. These folks will actually see color.
Amazing, yeah.
And I mean it's interesting to me. For the record, have never taken narcotics, not my thing. But it's like one of these things that you sit there and go, man, if there was a drug that could do that, and I understand there are some that do.
LSD would be one, I believe. LSD, yeah. Acid.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
Yeah. I've never taken that either. I mean, I'll pound back a few beers with you, and if they're passing a little Mother Nature around, I may partake of that. Although I find as I gain in years, I'm more of a relaxed party goer. Not my younger days, forget about it. But that's a show and a stories for another time, and for probably a more mature audience. I mean, seeing the colors. The other thing too, what I found with me, and I don't know if this is with you, but I've talked to quite a few people throughout the years, and I've come across a fair amount of people that have it. The term earworm, you get that in your head. Like I'll be walking around the house, or I'll be out in the backyard picking up sticks or something in the spring, clean up the yard, and I won't even have I'll have the headphones on just to block out the sound or something. I won't be listening to music. Like I'll shut it off after a while. And I'm just, right. And I'll start humming something, and I'm like, oh, well, this sounds kind of cool. And then I'm like, and if it's something that I know I haven't heard before, that I'm just kind of humming something together, And if it really strikes me, I'll run in the house and grab the guitar and put the phone on and record and say, this is kind of a cool chord progression. I'll work it out real quick, and then maybe use that to make a song or present it to some of the guys and say, hey, what do you think of this? Or what have you. You get those earworms, the famous one that we're going to give everyone an earworm for. Ready? The baby shark. And I know some of you out there listening are going, oh, God damn it, Terry, baby shark. Now, great, thanks.
Well, see, I thought you were going to do this one. Dang it, my voice went.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember that was popular for a lot of commercials too. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. And that's what they do in advertising. They want to get that earworm.
Sure.
I mean.
Oh, and that's a great example where if it's used right.
Speaking of NCIS, it's not, Law and Order.
Dun, dun. Yeah. Oh, the dun, dun.
Yeah.
Oh,
my wife gets mad when they don't do two. We only got one dung. I said, well, what can I tell you? Maybe they're cutting back. Hey, thanks for gathering around the virtual campfire with me today as we were talking with Dave Cody. I hope you got a lot out of it like I did. Truly an interesting man. And remember, visit my website, terryweiss.com. Just spell the name right, W-Y-C-E, terryweiss.com. There you can see samples of my work and see how I can help you with your next audio project. Also, if you found some value out of the podcast today, won't you please leave us a positive rating and review? If you have any questions, comments, or feedback for me, just shoot me an email. It's mail, M-A-I-L, mail at terryweiss.com or mail at weissthoughts.com. Check out the social media channels at Terry Weiss on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can look for me on YouTube at Terry Weiss, or you can search for Weiss Thoughts on the YouTube channels. And of course, I am on Facebook at Terry Weiss and at Weiss Thoughts as well. Until next time, my friends, remember, be good to yourself, be good to others, be kind to animals, and we will gather yet again around our virtual campfire real soon.